Hello everybody, my name is Biffa and this is the 5th of 13 planned Dev Diary deep dives coming every Monday all the way through until September, where we take an in-depth look at every Cities Skylines 2 update, including the Colossal Order Dev Diary, Dev Insights and more. This week we are diving into the very deep topic of city services, which is packed with exciting new updates and features we can look forward to in Cities Skylines 2, and boy, there is so many new things. Next week the topic is electricity and water, so be sure to subscribe and be here this coming Monday for that Dev Diary deep dive. Okay, let's dive right into city services. Right, city services Dev Diary, let us dive in.
Successful city building and Cities Skylines 2 is all about people, anticipating their needs and desires, ensuring they feel safe, and actually
Helicopter.
keeping them safe, understanding what annoys and delights them, and doing what it takes to give them healthy, happy lives from beginning to end.
So that's one of the biggest changes that we've got now in Cities Skylines 2, is really checking and taking care of and being aware of the needs of individual citizens, families in your city, which is something perhaps in the past where you didn't really have to do. We just sort of threw things down, it worked, and off we go. So yeah, really diving deeper into this simulation behind each person.
How? City services. You'll build clinics.
Okay, so we've got some buildings that are plopping down here. We've seen the availability screen on the left before over here, which is interesting. This one here, healthcare. Oh, that's the overall healthcare and death care bar, yeah, which is good. Yeah, excellent. So that all makes sense. Just checking there wasn't anything I'd missed. Still in New Dollarton,
And
of course.
hospitals to deliver healthcare, plus the ambulance service people need in life or death situations. Oh, yeah, sometimes it will be a death situation. So you'll add death care services that transport people to the city's crematoriums and cemeteries.
Oh, look at that cemetery. That is brilliant, isn't it? Look at, yeah, all the gravestones laid around. So rather than just that small one that we had before with a little tiny sort of church-looking building, this looks huge, doesn't it? Look, it goes all the way up there. I think we've seen this in other Dev Diaries and overviews as well. Great-looking building, I have to say.
You'll set up schools for kids of all ages, plus colleges and universities. After all, education fosters social...
Okay, so we're getting that overlook again, and also this little thing down here, the coverage and the education, so building or network. So we know that the area of effect of these buildings will travel down roads, and we're going to talk more about that a bit later, that these service buildings now have a cap. So remember that. But yeah, these good views like this. So education coverage, not good down here. I mean, there's a building there. The roads are still red. So, I mean, this is beta gameplay. It gets mentioned. So maybe, yeah, that's why it's like that. But we understand how it works.
Life still might take a turn for the worse for some people. When it does, you'll want the safety net of a well...
Now, this is new, administration. So this comes under the police tab. We can see down here, police and administration. I've also had a few comments about these little star symbols, that it still seems like we do get a thumbs up and a smiley face and things. But these might be tied with this little star down here, where we get the points for the development tree for unlocking stuff, which we spoke about last time. So, yeah, that's good. But yeah, welfare buildings is another thing, which is new.
Welfare office. One thing that improves everyone's well-being, no matter what's going on in life, is time outdoors. You'll create parks, plazas.
Now, just looking at the park tab here, so we seem to have, what's that, small parks, large parks. We've got sports and sports, so two different types of sporting things. That looks like someone with a camera, so tourist stuff, and then landmarks. I'm guessing for that last one, that's what it looks like. Yeah, we've got park and attractions. Ah, maybe that's attractions. Leisure activities. Yeah, okay, good.
It's attractions and landmarks that make people living nearby happier and healthier.
Does that look like Starling holding a football to anybody else? Is just me. Probably just me.
As in real life, safety first is a good mantra in Cities Skylines 2.
Oh, that fire looks amazing, doesn't it? That really does look real. I'm liking the look of that.
So you'll want various fire and rescue services. Just adding a firehouse reduces the likelihood of a blaze in the neighborhood.
So, yeah, what she was just saying there, just placing a firehouse reduces the percentage chance of a fire. We can see this here, average fire hazard 23%. So that's a new area of effect that we're going to have. So not just happiness when you place it, but reducing the chances of fire around it, which is great.
Neighborhood. Same with police stations.
Again, what have we got on here? Average crime probability. So again, that area of effect that drops the probability of crime around a police station. And it also seems like we're going to be talking about this a bit more later on as well, that you'll be placing less of the service buildings, using more of the modules and upgrades. So you won't get this area of effect everywhere, but in the places you choose to put them, you will do. So that's worth keeping that in mind.
Build them and send patrols out onto the streets to cut crime.
So the patrols that go out also have that area of effect. So wherever they are, crime will be reduced as well. So that's something else to keep in mind. these overhead shots. I'll see if I can find the picture. Somebody in my Discord has been putting all these different overhead shots together and turning them into a map of New Dollarton, which is fantastic. I'll see if I can find that. If I do, we'll put it up on the screen now. If it doesn't appear on the screen now, that's a good incentive to come and join my Discord. Link below. Lots of chat about Cities Skylines 2. Come and join us. Come and join us anyway, even if I did find the picture. Now, look at this up here. This sewage coming out of here. We're going to see this a little bit more as we continue on.
Communications is a new city service. And
here it is. This is the thing that we've all been missing. This little symbol down here. Telecommunications. And we're going to go into a lot of detail about that when we look at the written Dev Diary, but this is fantastic. We've got network quality and telecom coverage. So at the minute, the coverage is rubbish down here, getting to be green up there. So there's obviously something been placed in this area, which has helped. And I think we see at the end of the video what that is. A little tower perhaps around here somewhere. And then the network quality is a separate thing. So we'll talk about that in a bit.
Cities Skylines 2, helping you meet more essential needs. That includes the internet.
There we go. Placing a tower, giving people internet access, which is fantastic. I like that. Bringing the game into the modern age, not just post.
Naturally, the easier it is to connect to the web, the happier everyone will feel and the more profitable the city's businesses will be.
Looking good.
Of course, everyone relies on electricity, so you want to avoid long outages. They aren't just aggravating. Blackouts will prompt people to move out and force businesses to pause production,
So just looking at this here, so we're hearing about, obviously you don't want to be without electricity, that's sort of a given really, but look at all these options. So we've got like a small pole, a large pole, we've got this here, which is this item. Did it show what it was? Can I skip back?
Move out and force.
Yes, it did. It hovered over there for a second. Let's just go frame by frame, see if we can get that one. Yeah, here we go. Transformer station. So transforms high voltage currents coming from a power plant to low voltage current usable by buildings. So these here are the ones we sort of see going across fields, aren't we? Transporting huge amounts of power. And then these are more local. Maybe that's what it is. So that's the transformer station. Wind power. And then I'm sort of guessing, you know, we've got coal, gas. I'm sort of squinting in here. Is this like a solar panel? Is that solar panel? This must be a dam, some sort of nuclear power plant perhaps. No idea what the other ones are. So we've got some information there. Output low voltage, input high voltage. There we go. There's the two, capacity, and then the upkeep per month as well. So that will make sense. We've got a battery charge here as well. So one of these along here, batteries perhaps. So we've got some batteries in use somewhere. I'm just looking at all these other ones. Low voltage electric cables, high. So all the different colours. And we've also got these cables here. So we know that there's cables already in the road, and we can see them here, can't we? Look, attached to all the buildings. So interesting that we've got both sorts now, because we've got these ones here going along, as you can sort of see, and they work together. Excellent. So now we're only placing power cables where we really want them and need them for buying and selling power to other neighbouring cities, which again we'll talk about a bit later, which is another new thing. which will help us out. And then we've got the internal connections, which just work like we've just said. So very good, very good. Wind speed, groundwater. We're going to learn a bit more about that as well.
Force businesses to pause production, putting profits at risk. Keep electricity lines humming with sustainable energy sources like wind, solar.
There we go, solar. I knew there was a solar thing. I've already watched this video to get it in my mind, and I knew I'd seen it somewhere. There we go, solar panels. They look really cool as well, don't they?
Geothermal and hydropower.
Were they moving? They look like they're moving with the direction of the sun.
Wind, solar, geothermal. And
I don't know.
hydropower.
It's maybe just the shadow.
Old school with.
Okay, so hydro, wind, a few other ones are mentioned there. We've got these upgrades on the screen as well. We're going to really dive into those in a moment. Power line not connected. So we've got this power line here. We've got like the not connected symbol back there as well. So that's the larger one, isn't it? Taking it around the city somewhere. We've got the efficiency, which we're going to talk a lot about, and the usage and the storage as well. So storage of fuel that it's needing. So that's good. So I'm looking at these here and thinking, what do these do? I think this one here is about to add another, for some reason I was going to say trumpets. That is not the word I'm looking for. Chimney onto here. So let's just watch this bit.
Fossil fuels like coal and.
There we go. So that's the sort of upgrade that upgrades in place and didn't make, I don't think, the footprint any larger. But now we've got this connection and this connection over here. So that's one sort of module. There's other sorts of modules as well.
Gas. There's always the nuclear option too. This is the most.
There's that river that I mentioned before. That's going to come up a couple of times now.
Realistic city builder ever. So you'll need to deal with a lot of
a lot of mess stuff. Yes, here it is.
Sewage.
Yep.
Gross.
Part of the Cities Skylines. Isn't
Necessary. Also yes. With a waste.
Oh, there was something on screen there. Let me just go
Necessary.
back and see if we can see what that is. Waste treatment plant. Wastewater treatment plant processes sewage and purifies it of pollutants, pumped back into the water network. The remaining pollutants become garbage. Yeah. So the solids then go into our garbage network. Ground pollution low, air pollution low, purification rate 50%. You know, I'd like it to be a lot higher if that's going back into the water network. Lot of options here. So we've got water pipe, sewage combined. We've got the tower, treatment plants. That's the sewage outlet. So maybe that's just a pump or something like that. Okay, very good.
A wastewater treatment plant. You can purify sewage and circulate water into your city's freshwater network.
At 50%.
Or you can pump sewage into open waters and out of the network. Don't forget.
Oh, add some information on that as well. I need to go back. If there's like a little pop-up window.
And out of the network.
Here it comes. Here it comes. Oh, okay, you didn't. This is the new thing. So this is your garbage collection landfill site. And we've got a few different options here. So I may be assuming there's going to be recycling, something like that. And then we've got the landfill. But now we've got the ability to draw these in with nodes, which is just great. So that's going to... So the storage capacity is 24.8 tons.
Get to stay on top.
Whether it sort of shows it a bit more as we go along, it didn't. I think if we go back and watch that bit again. There we go, 100 tons. So yeah, it does go up as it goes along. 162. Very good. And I think this is going to be the same for the district tools as well with the nodes, which is just brilliant. I love that.
Top of garbage processing centers, land.
Looks like vehicles are coming out of here as well, rather than just spawning in the road, which I like that a lot more realism.
Processing centers, landfills, and an incineration plant will stop it piling up.
Oh, there we go. There's the other options that we've got. So we can see here the way these are laid out, filling up all the spaces that are available, which doesn't that just look so much more realistic than just the square one that we used to just plop down, you know, before, and that was it. So yeah, really look at helipads here. Is this like helicopter garbage collection? Is that like a new thing? Seems a little bit futuristic. I don't know. Have we just discovered something new? Maybe we have.
But don't take shortcuts. Air and water pollution can sink land values, harm.
So we've got the river down here, very yellow, water pollution high. So we know why, because we saw that river before, didn't we? But yeah, water pollution, surface water flow, groundwater deposits, groundwater pollution. There's a lot more, isn't there, that goes into it. I mean, it's 0 overall. So even though this is bad, everything else is... So this is orange. Ground pollution sources. Okay, so from factories. These are yellow. Water pollution sources. Water pollution is this over here. And then we've got the orange again, which is this one. Okay, yeah, so it makes sense. Oh, we can see there's like a purpley colour. Surface water flow. Oh, that's interesting. Is that because it's rained and it's sort of run through and got polluted? Question mark? That is interesting. Will that then run into the water and pollute it? Is that something else to take into consideration? How the land drains? Wow, that is something now that I hadn't thought was in the game and hasn't been mentioned. Have I just completely made that up and I'm wrong? I guess we'll have to find out.
The health of residents and tarnish the city.
I like this as well. The fact that we can just hover over these and see the information without having to click on the building and then see the information. This one over here, run out of foaming beer. Obviously a big problem. By the way, I am going to pause a lot as we're going through this, which you probably noticed. If you want to watch the whole thing, it's on the Cities Skylines website, on their YouTube channel. But yeah, this is the way we deep dive.
These appeal to tourists. Ready to introduce a city service? Previously.
Okay, so we've got elementary, high school, college and university. So a slight change there. What is this one here? So you've got this one and we've got this little thing with a... Would that be like a library tab or something like that? But I'm imagining elementary, high school, college, university. Don't know what they are. And then libraries in a separate tab. Maybe that's what that is.
You only had to construct a city service building when that service needed to...
Yeah, so now we're going to talk about the upgrades and the options. So we're not going to be plopping down these service buildings everywhere. You know, you build a new little area, you're going to zone it, it's going to have a few thousand people in it. They've got to have a fire, they've got to have a police, they've got to have an elementary, they've got to have a high school every time. Now we use upgrades and encourage people to travel in to where you've carefully chosen your services to go. So we're going to see it's got a capacity of 1,000.
Cover a larger area or support more people, you simply constructed the same building again.
I think I just said that.
Almost all city services can now be upgraded.
There we go. So that's added it. Was that on the same?
Almost all.
Yeah, so it's all trees and like a little plaza. So it's the same footprint, but it's added it onto the side.
To scale operations and expand functionality.
Yeah, the first one didn't do anything, but it gave a bonus. The second one added the section on the side. Let's just have a look. I don't think we can see what that is. Specialised treatment helps citizens in the hospital service areas remain healthier. So a special ward, expensive as well. So I'm liking these modules. Oh, whenever they flick past the screen suddenly like that, I'm thinking, what are they hiding that they don't want us to see? Okay, so we've got revenue overall, taxes, service fees, which we're going to mention a lot, service trade, which is buying and selling services outside. So they're obviously shipping out stuff which is making money. Government subsidies. Is that loans? Loans is separate up here, but this is the overall budget. So maybe expenses, service upkeep, subsidies 0 as expenses. So that's a positive subsidy. Okay, loan interest 0, so there's no loans. I wonder what that one is then. Government subsidies. And we're in a different city. We're in... Can you see the name of that city? New Zealand. What a fantastic name for a city. No longer in New Dollarton. Ah, very cool. We're seeing bus lanes down the side here, which is good. What else can we see around here? Nice bridges, lots of factories. Okay, let's see what else we see now we click on services. Right, so now we get the budget. So we understand the budget up and down, you know, for different things. Maintenance and resources, but we're also going to get...
To make your city livable, they come at a cost. Balancing these costs and the very real needs of everyone in your city is the name of the game. Subscribe to the Cities Skylines.
Okay, well, the other thing we're going to talk about at the end when we go more into the written deep dive from Colossal Order's website. So hold that thought. We will come back to that right now. On to the next thing. Right, so let's step back in time slightly to Thursday and take a look at the Dev Insight video, Zones and Signature Buildings. And again, there's lots of little things that we can take away from this video. So let's start it up.
Okay, let's talk about zoning.
I'm just going to pause it instantly right here because in the back we've got like a little skate park that's been added in, which I think looks really nice. And there's a couple of little parks over here. There we go, that we can see as well. Got a car park, some sort of little plaza. So I'm liking that. I'm liking the way we've got all these little new things that we can add as well, which of course we would expect, wouldn't we? And as we look at this, is this a different city? I know someone on my Discord, and I'll see if I can put it on the screen and find their name. We'll put it on screen, has been trying to map out New Dollarton every time it's been shown. And I'm thinking this is a different city. I might be wrong, but let's carry on.
We have the familiar tools returning, which are the fill tool, which fills the entire continuous zone with the selected zone type. Then we have the marquee tool where you can select these rectangular areas and just plop a little zone there. You can also have the paint tool, which you can use to...
And something that's popping up here, even though we know all about these tools, is this suitability, which we spoke about before. We can see this popping up while they were putting the different zone down. So depending on the colour of the road, the suitability for that particular zone, and also how many customers, particularly for the commercial, which is another nice addition.
Basically paint cell by cell to make the zone.
And there we go. Look, office suitability is rubbish for some reason along these roads. Not quite sure why that wouldn't be good for offices. I guess that is something we'll learn as we start playing the game, but there we go.
Exactly the way you want.
Compared to CS1, in CS2, the dezoning tool is added to your mouse, and it's the right click on your mouse. So it's not a separate tool anymore.
I think that's what we all did anyway, so...
Zone over existing zones.
But that's good, I like that.
At release in Cities Skylines, we'll feature 2 architectural styles.
Okay, going to pause it very quick here. So we've got 12 maps that are included, and we briefly spoke in last week's deep dive video about how these have got different climates, different temperatures, because I think they clicked on a few, and we saw that they changed, different hemisphere, different buildable area, and the electricity is an outside connection. And also the natural resources have either an area or amount that's available. I've not seen yet, because we've got a very sneak peek at the menu. I think it's on the next screen, and it didn't seem like there was an unlimited resources button. But I have to say, liking the look of these different maps, all based on places in real life. Some of you have told me what some of them are. Very clever of you, but yeah, looking good.
American.
Yeah, there we go. Look, there's the screen. But disasters included. We've got unlock all, unlimited money, and then tutorials if you want that. But yeah, talking about the theme, we went into more detail before, didn't we? But yeah, you can have EU or North American theme over your whole city to start with. And then, of course, you can individually tweak when you're pasting in your different zones.
And European. These styles include zoned buildings, service vehicles.
Nice to get the different sorts of service vehicles as well. So the EU and the North American version straight on the off. I'm liking that. Very good.
Road markings and roadside props.
In the first game, there were only 2 residential zone types. In the second game, we are introducing 3rd level, medium.
We have medium density row housing, medium density apartment buildings.
And mixed
housing,
which is great.
Shops at the bottom and apartments at the top, as well as low rent housing.
Low rent housings are bigger buildings with small apartments. People who are living in these kind of buildings are students, young adults who have just moved out, or singles.
And as we go along with this, a nice shot of the crane building the building, very good. We'll notice the population in each of these buildings seems very realistic. Sounds like a mod that we used to use in the past. Oh, look at that, looking nice.
Mixed housing is a new zone type in Cities Skylines 2. It answers the demand for...
Now, a little something that's going to come up in a minute is these little signs up here. I've mentioned them a few times, and I think it's maybe in the next shot where we see these. If a building is not occupied by a business, this sign is sort of blank, or it has a default message on it.
Low commercial
watch out for
and
that.
medium density residential. These apartments are good for...
There we go. Advertise here. And this is all looking like, oh man, you're something. Do you know what? Without my contact lenses, I can't read that. But it's the same blue and white as this. So I'm assuming that all of these are blank because someone hasn't moved in yet or a company hasn't taken the businesses at the bottom, which I think is great. And then they change when somebody moves in. That's what I reckon.
Because they have both the shops and the apartments.
The shop at the bottom of the building pays rent, so the residents of the building.
Here we go. So they've got this building here, Hemlock Street, with that sort of blank sign and company none in there. And I think they're going to click on this one next, if I remember. That one over there. So they haven't clicked on it yet. There we go. Now they've clicked on it. This one has a company in. What did I say? Spuds? SPDS or something like that. Yep, selling food. And they've got their little sign on the top. So another little addition. I'm enjoying that. Very good.
The mixed housing buildings have the separate section.
And here I was just going to mention about the household. So we're back on, I wasn't sure which building we clicked on here, but household 60 out of 60, 81 Sterling Street. I'm looking around to see where they've clicked, but I missed it. So yeah, that is a lot of people for one of these. Oh, it's this one here, look, got the blue thing. A lot of people in a building like that, which I'm really liking. And we can see them all listed down here. And we've mentioned before how, yeah, these are all the different households. So I'm reckoning we can sort of click on those and get some information. But we'll find out when we get there.
Apartments. And they can mix and match to create a large variety of combinations.
For a nighttime stroll.
The zone industry has two categories of buildings. Most of the buildings are manufacturing companies, but there are also warehouses.
So warehouses seem to be automatic now rather than you place them down, which I'm sort of 50-50 on that because I was hoping this sort of all these new goods and things, you could deep dive into it a bit and put warehouses where you want certain goods to go. But I'm thinking if the warehouse is automatic, maybe that's not the case yet. Could be totally wrong, of course. That's just me guessing on what they're saying. But
these companies can store their produced goods before they are sent further into the commercial sector or other manufacturing companies. Or,
of course, with the Find It mods, if ever that gets made for Cities Skylines 2, then everything changes, doesn't it? But, you know, I'm talking about vanilla, obviously.
Or outside connections.
Looks nice, though.
We have overhauled and improved on the zoning demand calculations. We have great tools for you to understand how to zone better. The system is now more complex, but not complicated. The game has a new feature called City Specialization Bonus.
Now, just before we go into the city specialization bonus, we're going to get some more information on that now. So changing the land value, it was brought out before, wasn't it? Instead of just chucking everything down, and I spoke about this in my last City Skylines 1 video, which you have probably seen, yes, just was out on Saturday, that you build a new area, you fill it full of service buildings, schools, parks, the lot, get the land value up, and then people move in. Whereas now it's switched around the other way. People will move in, businesses will move in, commercial will move in, and they will say, well, actually, yeah, our needs are being fulfilled. We've got the workers that we need. We can buy and sell our goods. I can't remember exactly what was mentioned, but it was those sort of things. Now the land value goes up because this is a good place to be. Now the city specialization, that was mentioned before, and it sort of seems like a whole city specialization, but just listen to what he's about to say, and that changes that thought a little bit.
This means that companies working on same materials and producing similar goods, when placed in close proximity, these companies gain an increase in efficiency, which in turn increases their productivity and profit.
Yeah, so it seems to be a more local thing because they clicked on like these two farm buildings, let's say it was these two down here, that we're now seeing from a different angle, and they were at 107, 114%, whatever. And then he clicked on a building over here, and it wasn't. It was like 72%. So the city specialization, yeah, I don't know whether the name has just sort of misled me a bit down a path, but rather than a whole city, it's like group. So if you've got a group here that are all working on, I don't know, farming products, they'll all get a bit of a bonus. Whereas if there happens to be one spawned in the middle of here that's dealing with that new software that we've heard a lot about, maybe they wouldn't get the bonus the same. So that sort of seems to me to be how that's going to be now.
In Cities Skylines 2, land value system has been overhauled. This time, it's the citizens and companies that decide which areas are desirable.
I think we were just saying about that.
And it is your job to provide them with the services and...
So just want to have a look at the land value that we've got on here. So we've got an overall land value figure for every cell in the city. We've got a land value sort of colour, which I'm assuming the blue is the better as it's this end. Building land value. Yeah, so the building land value is high. Land value terrain colour, yeah. So blue is a bit higher there. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay.
Opportunities they need to live prosperous lives.
And this is one of those other things that we've seen before with... So this is an industrial waste processing site. That isn't one of those special buildings, is it? Signature buildings. But it's got a sort of bonus on here. Minus 15% industrial ground pollution citywide. So there are bonuses in buildings that aren't signature buildings, which is interesting as well. Got a processing speed and storage. And we know a lot of buildings have modules. So whether these have modules as well, that would be good.
The zoning tool also introduces...
Oh, so around that building, it's saying absolutely no residential at all. And there's loads of ground pollution. So it's all red on the road. Don't do that, or pink. And then red down here for the pollution. So yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it? But that's really helpful for perhaps newer players as well.
Zoning overlay. This includes information for the different zone types, where to zone them, and which places are not maybe the best places for them to be in.
There we go. We get a look at the different ones.
The new feature
for
in
the different
Cities
types.
Skylines are the signature buildings. These are unique, ploppable zone buildings that decrease the demand of the zone.
Ah, there we go. So I thought it was going to show the specialities of this one, but it says that these buildings here, these specialized buildings, decrease the demand of the zone they're in. So this is an industrial building called... Do we get the name? We'll probably get the name in a minute, but it's going to drop this down once it's placed.
They are in. These buildings are unlocked.
There we go, farmer. I thought it was farmer. I didn't want to guess. So now you get these bonuses, but it will take care of some of your industrial need, because we can see it's got employees inside it as well. So it's sort of like a mix of the old unique buildings, but with those buildings, what were the 5 or 6 that you got right at the end of the game that just like healthcare everywhere for everybody, those sort of things, but in a more controlled way. So yeah, I'm really liking the signature buildings.
They usually have 2 to 3 different requirements before they're unlocked.
There's loads of them. There's loads of them.
Contributing to the zone demand, they also have positive effects to their neighborhoods as well as the city as a whole.
Yep, so we've seen some of those, so that's good. There we go. Well-being. Excellent. And again, looking good on those lovely cranes that we've seen. Fantastic. Right, now let's take a deep dive into the Dev Diary from Colossal Order's website, which contains even more in-depth information on this subject. First of all, city services. Now, before, city services would just increase land value themselves. Now it's the citizens and companies' needs that you're fulfilling with all these services that you're placing that increase the land value by wanting to pay more, and then they pay more rent and they level up their buildings. Before, all the citizens wanted the same thing, more or less, but now senior citizens, families, working age citizens all have slightly different needs to fill. We can find those needs in each family or company selected info panel, which is the little box that pops up, I think, when you click on either a family or a business. And it's great to be given that extra info we need to work on our citizens' needs. So as you can see on the screen, there are 11 different service types: roads, electricity, water and sewerage, healthcare and death care, garbage management, education and research, fire and rescue, police and administration, transportation, parks and recreation, and communication. Now, most of these we're familiar with, and some of them do just work the same as in Cities Skylines 1, but I'm going to highlight some of the new ones and some of the differences, the new features that they're going to be for each of these in Cities Skylines 2. Firstly, roads. Now, we know that over time, the condition of roads can decrease, leading to accidents, which we discussed in detail in previous Dev Diaries. And that's where the road maintenance depots come in to service the roads, improve their condition, and decrease the likelihood of accidents. Next up is electricity. Now, lack of sufficient electricity can affect the efficiency of a business, which we know can be increased by proximity to other like-minded businesses. Now, included in the base game are wind turbines, solar plants, geothermal, hydro, coal, gas, and nuclear power plants to supply that electricity. And of course, we can also bring it in from outside from other surrounding cities as well. Next is water and sewage. Now, again, the effectiveness of businesses and services can be affected when water or sewage treatment is lacking, and as well as the familiar water pumps, we now have groundwater deposits, which seem to refresh over time, perhaps that's the way I'm reading it, so care needs to be taken with their use. Slight change to the sewage works as well that purify the water. Any solid waste left over is now taken to the garbage management. So you've got to keep that in mind when you're setting up your city. Healthcare and death care. So there is now a passive, as I would call, area of effect health bonus around healthcare facilities, and ambulances will head out to deal with road traffic accidents if somebody is injured and they're called on. Also new, it's not only healthcare services that raise citizens' health, and bad health also has a knock-on effect later on down the line. Let me read this to you. Citizen health is positively affected by the availability of resources the household uses and their consumption, as well as the availability of healthcare. Negative effects on citizen health are different pollution types, previous illnesses and injuries, and any uncollected garbage. A sick citizen cannot contribute to their workplace and thus affects the company's efficiency. So now we're seeing a much deeper healthcare simulation and tying in with this other efficiency simulation we've spoken a lot about in Cities Skylines 2. Fantastic. Now, garbage management. Now, really not much has changed here, although we do see in the pic a landfill which looks also to be adjustable in size, because we've seen, haven't we, the farms, and we're going to talk about a bit later how there's now nodes to draw out districts, and it looks like you can do the same with these as well. So that is going to be a nice addition to our landfills. Now for education and research, another hint at a deeper simulation. It says, when choosing between school and work, citizens calculate which is financially more beneficial for them. To start working now in a lower position than earning money, or studying for a higher possible position earning them more money. Some citizens also simply choose to study or work depending on their inherent interests. So citizens can also fail to graduate, at which time they evaluate their options again and either continue studying, trying to graduate, or look to get a job. Elementary schools are going to encourage families with children to move in closer to them. So thinking about that, that means then we can guide how a certain portion of our population behaves by taking these extra little effects over the elementary school, and I'm sure there'll be similar effects for other buildings as well, into account while we're designing the layout of our cities. It's as you were with fire and rescue. Yep, they put out fires. You've also got fire watch towers that have an area of effect to reduce forest fires in their vicinity. Helicopter depots as well that are included in the base game, and we know disasters are also included. So an early warning system is one of the things you can build, and shelters for your citizens to hide if it's needed, if a disaster is heading your way. Now police, and along with that, administration. So again, you have an area of effect around your police stations, reducing crime around their location, as well as the new feature of police cars that will go out on patrol around your city, decreasing crime on their routes and enabling them to be out and about, ready to be called on to catch a nearby criminal. The Dev Diary also says that prisons function also as production facilities, producing resources used by manufacturing companies in the city. Wouldn't that be number plates? Is that the traditional thing? I don't know. Administration includes a welfare office to help those that are down on their luck, And it can also boost the well-being if happiness is below half. There's also the City Hall that has a city-wide effect, and this is great, of lowering loan rates and import costs, reducing crime, and also reducing the cost to level up a building. So fantastic effects there. Then you have the central bank, which also helps to reduce loans, boost company profits by lowering import costs and increasing export profits. So those buildings, not just great buildings to look at when you work towards them, unlock them in whatever way that you do, but also giving those bonuses as well to help build your city. Fantastic. No new real information in this section other than just to confirm that we're going to get buses, taxis, trains, trams, subway, ships, planes, and then with cargo by truck, rail, water and air, plus the depots that we know for all the land vehicles so they can help with the maintenance and things like that. So parks and recreation, well, in Cities Skyline 1, parks would directly affect land value. You'd place it down, it'd build up the land value. So you could just spam a load of them down and bingo, up goes the land value. Instead, now they go towards filling the leisure needs of the citizens, as we've learned, and that all ties into their well-being. So if the citizens' needs are met, then the land value increases because more rent is being paid. Now, this leisure demand can rise or fall depending on the weather and the time of year as well. So more of those new and complicated systems working with each other here, which is great. Altogether, parks and tourist attractions add to the city's overall attractiveness value, which in turn attracts more tourists to spend their money in your shop, sports venue, attractions and landmarks. And that lines your coffers as well for expanding your city even more. Now, communication. We've been speaking about that little sort of speech bubble thing, and I reckon that's what this is. The final one of the city services, which includes the post services with post offices and sorting offices, and the new telecommunications. Now, the post services basically work the same, fulfilling a need, increasing well-being. Telecommunications slightly different, so this provides each citizen with a high-speed internet connection, with everybody taking a piece of the available 1 gigabit a second. Now, the various internet service buildings have various bandwidth and range abilities, again helping to increase the well-being of citizens and the efficiency and profits of companies as well. So all these things tying in together to help everybody out. The next section's landscaping, not much to say, basically the same, but an additional point was the life cycle of trees. So every time you plant a tree, it's going to start off as a sapling and grow over time. And that's the same if fires destroy trees. So they'll come back as small and then they'll grow back over time as well. So a little bit of extra realism to your cities there. And then pathways as well, same as Cities Skyline 1. You lay paths, citizens are going to walk on them, saves them money and also saves you the traffic. So now we're getting into the nitty-gritty service upgrade. So it seems now that we will probably need to place less service buildings to fill the various needs of our citizens, but the upgrades, or the modules as I've been calling up until this point, that we can add to these buildings are going to increase various functions of these service buildings, or even add new functions. Give an example of that, as well as increasing patients and ambulance capacities of clinics, or increasing the places at a school, at a children's clinic or playground will also improve health and well-being of its students, which, you know, this is all now being taken into consideration with the well-being of everybody, isn't it? So a power plant might upgrade to increase its output or decrease the air pollution or to have more storage for fuel. So many options. I can't wait to see how this is going to be used by modders as the game goes along as well. It also mentions that careful consideration is really going to be needed with regard to the upgrade. So it's not just a case of placing a building, then as soon as you can afford it, do all the upgrades and paying the price, but really to consider the needs and choosing accordingly. Again, more choice equals more fun. Now, the upgrades are split into 3 different categories. Operational, so that's adding functions like more internet bandwidth to radio masts, but without changing the way that building looks. You can have extensions or modules, as I've been calling them. So these will attach to the main building and increase things like vehicle count, student or patient capacity, or fuel output, that sort of thing. So that's just straight onto the main building. Then you've got sub-buildings. So that's a separate building that's added on the same lot. And I think we saw that in the last Dev Diary deep dive where one was being placed and it sort of skipped and moved and you could place it in a couple of places. So we've now got to think about leaving enough space around our service buildings that if we're going to add some of these extra sub-buildings later on, that we've left ourselves enough space for them. And then the service coverage as well, and this has changed slightly. So you've got two effects. You've got passive, or what I would call an area of effect. You know, when you place a building down and then there's a ripple of happy faces that goes out from that building. Ow, that was my arm. That wasn't a passive effect. And there's also a simulated effect. An example of this is a police station. So it's got an area of effect which lowers crime around the building. But then you've got the patrolling police cars all through your city that spread that effect further afield where they're travelling. Now, most of the passive effects are obvious. Fire station, less chances of fire. A school, well-being bonus for families and children. And the welfare office bonus for those living with low happiness. Now, the area of effects can actually reach further as each building has a certain capacity upgrade so it can cope with. So if the service building is in fact in a lower residential area, the area effect spreads down roads further, but the opposite is higher if it's in a residential area because you're going to hit the capacity sooner because there's more people close by. Does that make sense? And also the area of effect fades the further you are from a service building. Well, that's something we would have seen before. So interesting that they've all got this capacity and they're going to act differently depending on if they're in a lower residential area or a higher residential area. So definitely not just spamming things down like we did before. Wherever it looks good will do. Get the land value up. Now you've really got to take your time and think about what you're placing where and how it's going to affect the citizens and the businesses and the companies around you. So now we also have service efficiency. We're going to put this list on the screen. I'm not going to read through it all. You can have a look at that, maybe pause and read through. But this new efficiency is something we've spoken of before with the company's efficiency. We saw like-minded buildings that were using the similar sort of goods next to each other would increase their efficiency and that sort of thing. And it could rise and fall depending on various factors. Well, this list on the screen shows the various functions that are affected by this efficiency rating in each of the service buildings. So how do we work out the efficiency rating to then enjoy the bonuses that we're seeing on screen? Well, as well as the obvious, power and water, they're going to need those. Access to the correct fuel for those, so wind, sun or solid fuel. And also employees playing a big part, especially happy, healthy and the right level of education to fulfill the roles that that company or service has. And this links also into the goods that are made in the city. So for instance, if there is a lack of pharmaceuticals, which is one of the new goods that we speak about, that's going to affect the efficiency of medical facilities, which is then having the knock-on effect of affecting the treatment of its patients, and then the bonus that those unwell patients would have had to their health and well-being once they've been seen by the medical facility. Now also, like in CS1, you could adjust your budget. I put budgie in my notes. Don't think you're going to be adjusting any of those. You rather adjust your budget to deliberately affect the efficiency of the service building. So if your city is not currently large enough to use all the capacity that you've got, you can save some money and drop that down, which I think, considering how much different stuff we're going to be juggling here, I think we're really going to be using that menu a lot to make sure we're not paying over the odds for what we actually need at the time. Now, another new addition, service fees. So these are collected from citizens for their use of roads, electricity, water and sewage, healthcare, garbage collection, education and transportation. Now, for water and power, decreasing these service fees increases customer happiness. Well, that makes sense. It increases company profits. I'm thinking, how does collecting less money increase their profits? But that's what it says. And it decreases use of that service. Increasing service fees has the opposite effect. I hope I've got that right. I'm pretty sure that's what it said. Along with adjusting things like parking fees district-wide or individually in specific parking lots, you can also adjust individual transport lines' ticket prices. So doing all of this really is going to help you to tweak and adjust how your citizens might prefer to travel through your city. If this one's a little bit more expensive, less are going to use it, but you might prefer that. So again, more choice, more fun. I'm loving it. And another new mechanic, service trade, where you can import or export your services at a cost or at a profit. So this gives you a different option when you're starting a city. So you could save perhaps some initial money instead of building like a coal power plant. And if there's power lines nearby, you can then just import your electricity from neighbouring cities. For water and sewage, you'll actually have to unlock tiles to the map border to connect those up to be able to export or import those. Your citizens can also travel to neighbouring cities for their medical and death care needs, and also police and fire services. They're going to travel in, but of course if they're being called, there's an emergency, there's going to be a lower response time because of the distance, so there's a knock-on downside to that as well. Interestingly, citizens can travel outside the city for college or for uni. If they do that, they may actually decide to leave your city for good because it's actually better in the next city where the college or university is nearby. But the same can happen in reverse. So if you've got extra capacity available, you can attract students in from other cities to live and study in your metropolis instead. And districts and policies. Now, mainly they function the same, but with this new way of drawing them in with the node system, which I think is going to be great. In one of my recent vanilla Cities Skyline videos, trying to get districts that are next to each other to line up, to be in the right place, not to do that weird semi-transparent thing when you delete a bit. That's gone by the look of it with this new node system. You can also see from the district screen all the benefits and drawback of that area. So you just click on its name and you get that information straight away. So great info to have. We recently learned as well that services can be assigned to certain districts, which will be great for those that have multiple cities across a map, as well as 5 citywide policies. There are also 7 district-only policies that you can apply. Now, some of these policies also have a positive and a slightly negative effect too. For instance, no speed limit on a highway, fantastic, but now you've got a chance of more accidents, so you need to weigh the benefits against the negatives. So which additions to the new city services are you most looking forward to? Let me know in the comments, and also let me know if there was anything I missed that you noticed. And don't forget to subscribe before you go so you can be back here next Monday as we take a deep dive into the electricity and water dev diary. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.